Earth population, I hope.
I see.
In this chapter, it unusually has lots of repetition of an exact verse, which basically says, what other bounties of your Lord do you still deny, both of you, man and jinn? And this high density of repetition, what attracted me to count how many of these repetitions there are. Out of 78 verses of the whole chapter, 31 of them is exactly this verse. And the 47 other ones are unique. 47 is a prime number and 31 is a prime number. So the next thing I looked at is which numbers are these 31 events, which verse numbers? And when you look at them, they are sort of number 13, 16, 18, 21, and continuous until 77. 31 of these numbers. So I tried to draw them on a diagram to see if it reveals any word, like the word God or Allah, but nothing I could find. I tried to see if there is hidden subliminal messages within them to solve the prime numbers that pointed to in the first chapter of the Quran, which is called the key, interestingly. I couldn't find. Then I decided to add them up. And once I added up the 31 numbers, the verse numbers, I got another prime number, which is 1433, 1433.
Okay.
And this number is extremely important because
Mr. Adams, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we do need to take a quick commercial break. Folks, we'll be back in just a moment after this break to continue our discussion. Gentlemen, we are back on the Crimson Pill on Republic Broadcasting Network. I'm your host, Antonin Fiore, joined by our guest, Mr. Ali Adams, a professional in the information technology field who's done extensive work with cryptography and the use of prime numbers. Mr. Adams, before we finish with the last segment, I wonder, could you help our listeners, because so many of these folks do careful research on their own based on what they're hearing in the program, could you point them in the direction of where they can go to find more information about your work and to research this themselves as well?
Of course, it's my pleasure. I have a website called heliwave.com, so that's spelled HELIWAVE.com, and everything there is free. All the books, the software, the presentations. Actually, the software is not only free, but it's open source as well. I believe this information is from God to the people of God. I should never withhold any information from anybody or charge them for anything.
Certainly. And the title of your book, available on PDF format there, I believe, is Quran and 2012. Is that right?
That's correct. And even if they cannot find it on my website, because sometimes just get the denial service, you could search on the internet, and it's widespread because this work has been started since 2008, and the book has been written since 2009.
You bet. And I'll just make the point that the spelling of Quran there is Quran, Quran, and 2012.
Mm-hmm. Or you could Google prime numbers on 2012 or 2012 prime numbers. That will take you somewhere there as well.
Excellent. Now, just before the break, you were telling us about how your research pointed you to 2012 itself, and that the events will occur in the year of 2012.
Yes, indeed. And when I added these repeated verse numbers, I got the prime number 1433. And this number, if you know the Islamic calendar, currently we are in the year 1432. So we are one number away from 1433. Which suggests this number might be a link to 2012. But this might has been approved by God by giving us an even bigger hint that the number of words in this chapter, the Merciful, is exactly the same number of days in the Hijri year, in the Islamic year, 1433 AH.
I see.
And this fact actually is like hitting two birds in one stone. First, we could say the prime number 1433 pointing to the Islamic year 1433, which is next year. And the other thing is every word maps to a day. Every word in the Merciful chapter maps to a day in the Islamic year 1433. And if we go through all these words until we reach the first repetition of this verse, the 31 repeated verse, we found the verse has 4 words, so that's why it has 4 days each event. And the first word is the word 44th, the 44th word, which means it will map to the 44th day of the Islamic year, which maps to the 7th of January.
I see.
And the last one starts in November and again ends in 7th of November. So it's from 7th of January to 7th of November, a period of 10 months.
And tell me about your feeling of the connection or linkage between Elenin and these 31 events.
Certainly. The most important finding was once we found the times of these events, the dates, and we found their number and their durations, we wanted to know what type of events these are. So I developed software called Quran Code. Again, it's a free and open source for everybody to use. You don't even need to know Arabic. It's straightforward. The interface is in English. And I found that the 1433, the prime number, if I go to the 1433rd letter of the Quran, I found it falls in the word stones.
Say, Mr. Adams, I apologize to interrupt, but unfortunately, and it just troubles me to no end, but we're at the top of the hour, and I have to close the program for today. If you would be willing, maybe we can rejoin our conversation at a future date.